Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Who's here? Who have we got here? Hey, Stellian, how are you doing? You're still awake. That's good. What time is it there? Hi, Graham. $8:20. Yeah. Well, 6:20 here, and it's freezing. Very cold. Cold in the basement. I've got the heating on though, but I have to wear a jacket. Oh dear. So, were you here yesterday's stream? -16 is ridiculous. That's so cold. I think in this country I've only ever experienced -8 at the coldest. But yeah, 16 is very, 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 very cold. So yesterday's stream was, if you caught that, can't remember who was there, but it was all very good. Talking about, well, the main thing of it was talking about being able to describe your music and being able to explain a problem. And then through being able to do those two things, those two actions, describe and explain, you can pretty much solve most musical problems that you have. And then I was just talking about the David Deutsch, why is the flower beautiful? And that was part of the description and explanation part of it all. So it was, I don't know, it was a little bit heavy yesterday. I thought, when I prepared it the night before, I was thinking, I'm really excited. And then when I started actually talking about the thing, I thought, oh, right, this is getting like a little bit too heavy. We're meant to be rock and roll here. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favourite ones, actually. Very challenging to talk about, though. So, having said that, today should be a little bit easier because what I'm going to do is, for this morning, I'm just going to summarise, really, everything that we've been through for the last month, because this is the last stream for the talks anyway for a bit, because Thursday, Friday, I want to get back to using this time to make music, which is like, super important, isn't it? Having said that, I'll still be talking, just it's going to be watered down a bit with me actually doing some music in front of people. So, and that's another skill, isn't it? Sitting here and people watching you and doing stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that, actually, because I've started to miss kind of, getting stuff out and playing guitars and drum machines and synths and all that kind of good stuff. So it'll be nice to get back to that. Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking at my bit of paper here, and there's like all of this. This was the initial scribble. When I decided to just do series of talks, I suppose. I don't know if I even thought about it as a series of talks, to be fair. But I just thought I would list it because I thought I might actually make some music as well. I didn't really have much of a plan, to be fair, but I did sit down. I spent about half an hour actually just writing a list of things that I wanted to cover. I ended up with a list of 24. 24, 25 things. So, I mean, I don't think we've covered all of the things. Oh, number 25 was why, what, and how. But we can cover that anyway, because I think I mentioned it in other things. But yeah, just going through the list. So yeah, it was 25 themes. So going through the list, we started with 3-role theory, if you can remember that, the 3-role theory idea. And that was sort of, as creatives, we have 3 areas in our thinking: the dreamer, the realist creator, the critic connector. Something that's massively helped me in coaching, because one of the things about having these 3 distinctive areas in the creative process is when you're trying to help people, when you're coaching people, what you find is wherever they are stuck in their process, it's usually in one of these areas. Well, it has to be in one of those areas. So it makes things a little bit easier to do diagnostics when you're talking to somebody, to like locate those areas. Just as I was explaining with the describing and explaining, similar thing, but we're locating a problem almost on an XY axis then, aren't we? So we'll find often that, we're a lot more stronger in the dreamer area, or in the creator area, or in the connector. I certainly fall in between the dreamer creator area. I'm not so fond of the connecting thing, because it feels it's less. I mean, actually, now having said that, the way that I'm doing the connecting now, where I'm actually replaying things, and there's more of artistic license at the end of a project. It's not so bad now. It suits me down at the ground. But I would say overall that I fit much more in the dreamer. Maybe it's more back-ended dreamer creator sort of area. And that's where I like to be. I must admit, I do like the discovery area of the process, because for me, it's the most exciting bit. It's where I can develop my own voice. At least that's where I feel that it mainly sort of like happens, is in that creator area. So when we're doing the discovery sessions, fundamentally what we're doing there is we're doing it's splurging, but it's splurging in response to something that already exists. And that way I just find that I can really plan out and see the sort of directions that I want to move in. So I do like that phase, and of course I do like the splurging phase, just creating lots and lots of ideas, and not being judgmental. Especially when I'm doing it live as well. I'm playing guitar really like that, and doing solos, improvising solos over a whole track that I've just made is very good. And also, I mean, the dreamer phase is very exciting. So at Christmas, when I was back into songwriting, it was just really good to experience the full-on excitement and chaos of putting something together, especially when you're working with somebody else who like works fast. You don't have any time to organize anything. Just everything is a mess, and you just have to let go and just hope that you can solve it later on. But I must admit that great ideas are captured like that. So it was really good to sort of experience that in conjunction with somebody else. But yes, the dreamer, realist creator, critic, connector, and that comes from the Walt Disney archetypes, doesn't it? It comes from his idea of him being a dreamer, a realist was his word, and a critic when he went into meetings, and he got people to brainstorm ideas. And then we moved on to conditions for success, which is very close to my heart, because doing conditions for success was basically how I started down the sort of coaching, started in the coaching game, so to speak, or at least I wasn't learning to be a coach, I was actually somebody being coached. And the conditions of success was everything that I needed to work on, basically. I think every single area bar skills was weak, unfortunately. So in that we had focus, didn't we? And we had habits, and we had environment, decisions, fear, boredom. We did cover some skills. We did look at community. So, I mean, what was super useful here for me initially was when you're focusing, when you're trying to focus, what are you focusing on? A lot of the time, I would just basically just not know what I'm doing. It was like it was being in a dark room with a torch and not really knowing what I was actually looking for in that room. So it's always really important to know what it is you're aiming for. So when you're sitting down for sessions, there is a direction that you're moving into rather than just sitting down and, oh, I'm going to make some music. There has to be some goals set. So mine in the end was that I wanted to produce dance music, and I wanted to get onto Beatport, I wanted to be releasing, and I wanted to be signed to various labels that I really like music to, and that was pretty much it, and that's what I did. And that required me to listen to other music. Unfortunately, it was label whoring, which is, it's still super creative, but you do have to work out who you are in relation to a label's manifesto. If you're going to get signed to a label, it has to be a good fit, Sometimes you might just make something and it'll just naturally fit somewhere, which is great. But a lot of the times, if you're playing the strategic game of going up the label ladder and trying to get to the top of it, then you do have to do that. But it's all good. It's all part of the learning journey, and it's still a super creative thing to do. And I really enjoyed that phase of sort of making music and trying to work out basically what's my style, my production style, trying to get it to a point where I could transcend into other styles, which did work to a point. A lot of the stuff that I did then, and how I sort of conduct my music productions from the electronic phase are still evidently there in everything else that I do. Basically, my approach to guitar, my approach to McLaughlin and Hutch, definitely there was like a lot of stuff came with me into that. And I think it just made our music sound a little bit different to other people's music as well, having had coming from that background of house music, basically. And then habits, like how important are habits? Like we've got to have a habit. So I always bang on about this because a lot of problems people are having. I haven't done my music sessions. I found it difficult. There just wasn't the time this week, and I completely 100% understand that like life throws things at us. But usually, what the problem is that there's been no minimum viable commitment made. So a minimum viable commitment, all it is you just saying to yourself, I'm going to make some music every day as if my life depended on it, as if it was keeping you alive. I know it sounds a bit tragic, but let's say if we imagined that we had to make music, right, to stay alive, then chances are, like brushing your teeth, the best thing to do is to pick a time in the day, right, where it's going to be a trigger. So for me, getting up in the morning is the trigger, and then you can have a reward at the end, and then your brain just automatically knows that there's an action in between those two things, and it just means getting to the thing that you're doing is automatic. There's less resistance, so you just have to kind of work on practicing that and getting yourself there, getting yourself to the room. And then eventually, as I always say, like again this morning, I got up, made my coffee. I have a certain routine going around, switching everything on, going to make my coffee, getting ready. And then I'm sat here and pretty much it happens so quickly, I don't even know that I'm here. And I don't have to think about sort of anything, really. I just do it. It's almost unconscious. And then I'm here, and then I'm talking to you guys, and it's quick. But, and the thing is when we sort of practice making music, sorry, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And then for your minimum viable commitment, you can give yourself a really low number. Mine's been down to 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a thing. It's back up to 15 minutes, right? And you're just setting the bar lower and lower. So whatever happens, you're going to get yourself a win. If it's 5 minutes and you sit there, you switch on, you do a drum beat in 5 minutes, it's a win. But usually what happens is you'll do 5 minutes and you'll get lost in what you're doing because you're trying to beat the clock. I've only got to do 5 minutes, so I'm going to really get in here and I'm going to quickly try and make something in 5 minutes. And before you know it, right, you're immediately in flow, because when we talked about the consequences of flow and the things that get us in there, time is a factor. Time dilation is something we experience, so therefore time is something we can use to get into flow. So hence the clock that I have there, I can set that to a time like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then try and beat it, try and do something. And sure enough, when that beeper goes, sometimes I don't even hear it, I'm that gone, and I'm making music, and it's great. And when you're in flow, it can be, I usually get about an hour and a half out of it in one go. And also, is what we've got to remember is when we do get into a flow state, is it's not a magical one-off thing. Being in flow, you can have it as many times as you want, but I'll not say too much because I'm going to cover that later on. But anyway, this minimum viable commitment time, because it is really important, because it's one of the things I hear all the time. Once you prove you can do 5 minutes, and how much you can do in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, really what you're doing is you're altering your perception of time, aren't you? You soon realise that actually, hold on a minute, I can do an hour's worth of music in 15 minutes. So I need less time to produce. I don't need hours and hours. I used to think I needed 6 hours to knock a song up a day, a full day, everything. The diary had to be cleared or there was no point. And that's just nonsense, isn't it? We can just sit 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we've got computers, we've got instant recall on everything, so that's a super advantage. Computers can be a distraction, but they're also great for other things. We don't have to set hardware equipment up every time we want to do our song, which is what I used to have to do back in the day. I'd have to load samplers up and get the mix back up on the on the desk and all this kind of thing. It was never the same. The vibe was always different. So it was time consuming, but not now. We can do these things in a lot shorter space of time, so there is no excuse, is there really? Is what I'm saying. We can all be making music, and we can all find 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the day to do something. And then obviously the other thing is try and do music, try and carve some space out for yourself, because if it's something you really, really, really want to do, people around you, loved ones and things like that will understand, that, and hopefully you'll just say, yeah, we can give you a little bit of time once a day to do that. It's like going to the gym, isn't it? Hi Bella, how you doing? It's like going to the gym, isn't it? And you can just, you can have that time, but instead of going to the gym, we're making music. So just having a habit, super important, becomes automatic and you do it every day. One thing we did talk about habits, so that I did add to that, that's really, really important, is beware that habits are very frail. What you have to do with a habit is you do have to back it up, preferably with, what I do is I create an event, and I also will create some sort of like accountability within that. So if you've got to turn up and there's going to be people involved, then you're going to do it more likely. It's like work, isn't it? So that things like that just reinforce the habit. And the accountability thing is just, you can say, I will finish such and such, or I will have 10 songs done in a month, or, so I'll do that on a live stream now and then. And then I'm held accountable by everybody, which is brilliant. I'm going to do that, and it's a different type of focus, you know. It makes things very, very real, indeed. Environment, just basically don't buy too many plugins. Use what you need. Have some sort of template. So any sort of repetitive tasks that you keep doing, try and build them into a template, but don't try and build a template that solves every single problem that you haven't encountered yet. I've seen that many a time as well, where people have gone, Tim, I'm like stuck, and then I've looked at the template, and then they've got like literally everything loaded up. They've got Omnisphere on there about 10 times. They've got like, full orchestra ready to go just in case they're doing orchestra. They've got like basically about 4 different basses for different genres: house, synthwave, techno, trance, you know. And it's just unwieldy, and you just don't need that. You just need a basic template based on, beats plus 3. So thinking of it like a band, and then upgrading your band members. All right. So this is very much geared towards you making your own creating your own voice, so to speak, your own unique voice. And part of that is having unique instruments, which you start with, write with, and then upgrade. So like for me, one thing I have that pitched up guitar. It's like acts like a synth, and then I have the guitar bass sound that I have. That's like a couple of examples. So environment's important. Just not having, buying loads of stuff that you're not going to use. I mean, I've got a ton of stuff in the cupboard which I've got to sell, I woke up this morning thinking I need to sell my OP1 and I've got the other one as well. I can't remember what it's called. But I need to get rid of those 2 teenage engineering things because I just never use them. I've got absolutely no intention of plugging it in because it's just hassle. It's just time wasting. And I think the benefits I would get sort of outweighed with the benefits of using something else that's quicker and easier to use for time and just ease, really. Environment decisions. Remember, we had insight and analysis. Very, very important. I got a lot of leverage out of like understanding those 2 things and actually where to put them. So my insight remains in the studio, and my analytical, critical decisions outside of the studio. So I'll just catch up on the chat a bit. Oh, hi there, Tim. Who else have we got here? Anybody else? Everybody's quiet. Do say hello. It's fine to interrupt me. I'm now catching up on the chat, so do say good morning, and then I know who's here. I wish I had the focus I had years ago. So what's changed, Stellion? Would you be able to say on the chat what's changed? Like if this was a coaching session and it was, I would say something like, okay, so in this session you want to achieve having the focus that you had years ago. Yeah. The first question I would ask is, what might you be assuming now that's stopping you from having that focus? So what is stopping you having that focus, Stellion, out of interest? If you can say in the chat, that would be great. But that would be the first part of this. Is what might you be assuming that's stopping you from having your focus? Okay, new audio interface, yes. Well, I'm a big fan of PreSonus because for plugging a guitar in, it's great because they seem to focus on having a fast latency turnaround, which I like. I mean, I had UAD before that, and it's a slower interface. It's only really fast, like if you're using their plugins internally in on it, and then you've got 0 latency. But in terms of actual latency for anything else going in there, then it's unfortunately there's latency. So it was no good. I bought the new one and then sent it back. Hi, Enzo. I'm good, Tim. Thank you. Oh, that's smart, Alec. There we go. Driving but having a listen. Great. You ripping it. You were ripping it with Thomas. Yes, thank you. Oh, life happened. All right then. Life does happen. Enzo, I'm selling all my extra gear since I got this new Mac. I have more than enough. Wonderful. All right. Age, other problems, job, and a lot more. Oh, sounds heavy. UAD have some good plugins. The API 2500 bus compressor is good. I used to use the Waves one. The Hitville EQ is also very good. No, I didn't hear it because there was some audio books that I ended up catching my eye instead, but I will go back to it, Enzo. So I will have a listen to Holes on Planet X. Hi, Sean. So yes, I'm just recapping over everything we've done because I think this is the last talk that I'm doing for a bit, and it's been an absolute blast doing those 25 or however many I did talks over the new year. What a way to do! Yeah, what a way to do January. Very interesting, and it means I've built a resource people can go back to. It also means that when I get round to, which I will do, because I've got my video, because I need to go into video editing school now. Obviously, I'm going to do more short videos like this where I'm talking about particular subjects to do with music making. So that's going to be something I'm going to be doing as YouTube. YouTube content is the plan. Oh, you have catch up to do, yeah. Well, yesterday's one, I really enjoyed talking about yesterday. The stuff we're doing on yesterday's talk was really good. It was a little bit heavy though. I will contact you either this week or next week if that's all right. Of course you can, Enzo. That's great. And we can have a chat on Zoom. Enzo is also right. I'm focused on YouTube this year also. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I want to grow, I think it's the one way I'm going to do it. Do I still have the UAD? No. I got it and I returned it. And I've got a really old one in the cupboard. But I used UAD for years, you know. Years. I mean, you're talking a long time. I used to have a power core card as well, you know, TC Electronic. In fact, at one point, I think I had 2 UADs and a power core in PCI slots. It was a good setup, really good. To be fair, I think they're probably all about the same. PreSonus and Focusrite. I wouldn't be able to 100% compare the things. Just at the time, it was quicker than most things. Yeah. So, all right. Well, there's a few things going on the floor here for pedals, right? So, pedal for guitar plugins. Yeah, it is That's an expensive one. It's actually more than that. So I've got the MC6 Pro, which is great. That's what helps me like navigate Ableton Live. So it is but it's like the best one to get. It's the easiest one to kind of get your head around, I think. I'm using Thunderbolt, Tim. But you can get the older MC8, which is what Thomas uses. You can use that. I think that might be a bit cheaper. But I went for the newer one, the upgrade. And it's great. So I have that, and then for like switching my video about, you know, I can do that on my feet. I've got like a controller for that, and then I've also got which is Stream Deck. So I've got a Stream Deck, and I've got like a Stream Deck thing for my feet as well. Who makes that again? I can't remember. Elgato. And that's sort of my pedals. But it's a little bit hit and miss, actually, the pedal thing, when you're using it with like Logic, because if it isn't at the front, then it won't work. And like sometimes you kind of, it doesn't work, and then you have to reset it with the mouse and stuff. But usually it's good. Where was I? So yeah, decisions, insight, and analysis. So really, the takeaway from insight and analysis is basically analysis, thinking, editor outside of the studio. When you do your listening sessions, so your music that you're working on, do it outside of the studio. Create some sort of an action plan. Usually, if you want to do the momentum routine, after your first session, you can listen to your music and then write 3 things you're going to try out. Prioritize those 3 things in terms of what's the most impact for the listener, least effort for you, and then do those actions. When you do the first one, because these things came from a phase of analysis, what inevitably happens is it basically primes the subconscious to then, which will come up with lots of other ideas, okay? And basically with all of those ideas, you can just act on those as well. So what you'll find is you do the first action, and then all these other ideas that aren't on the list will happen. Do all of those. If something doesn't work, move on. Once that dries up, go to the second action of your 3 things. Do that. Do all the other ideas that come from that. If something doesn't work, move on. And then do the third thing. And after that, that can be the end of your session once you've done those 3 things. And if you keep doing that, reviewing and then going in with actions, it's a rapid way to finish a track. You know, if you're not kind of running any machine system, that's how I used to do things, and I would finish tracks at a very, very rapid rate. I think the only problem with that is you don't get a break from your music. And, you know, that's fine, because sometimes we'll have deadlines and things that we have to work on. So what you have to remember there is not to get confused, right, between your physical feelings about who you are, right, and how you conduct operations and how good you are and all of those kind of things, and end up feeling bad about yourself and having those emotions, which then mix with the emotions of the music that you're actually working on. There are 2 different sets of emotions. There's emotions of how we feel, and then there's the emotions of how the music is meant to make us feel. And what we can do is we can get that all mixed up, and then we lose our objectivity. I will look at Stream Deck. Do you always use the plugin when you're recording guitars? I'm considering selling my Fractal because my computer can't run so many instances of neural DSP now. Right, okay. I always use a plugin to record guitars. There's nothing I'm like plugin only, pretty much. I always have been. I had my phase with the Quad Cortex, but again, it's plugging stuff in, fiddling on with another bit of gear, and that's not for me. I tried, and I couldn't do it. But yeah, so what's easiest for me is great, and then again, I pick Polychrome DSP because, I mean, obviously it sounds great, but everything I need sort of in the one place, isn't it? And I'm happy to compromise on anything, but pretty much like 80%, 90% of what I want is there for now. So I don't have to jump across multiple plugins, you see, like Neural, great stuff. However, the problem I have with those is there are so many to choose from. And it's choice paralysis. So again, what I would do is I would pick the Soldano because that would be in the rough ballpark, but it wouldn't do everything that I needed. So then I had to then mess about with other neural DSP. The other thing is the higher latency, because like sometimes some of those plugins, they're putting like 1.5 milliseconds onto your project, which is a lot. That's a huge amount of latency. So if you have 2 of those, that's 3 seconds. You know, Thomas's plugin is like extremely low. And you can have multiple instances and be perfectly funny, but like 3 is a lot. You know, like it really does, because they just clock up. So yes, I mean, just selling any hardware. I mean, I'm going to sell my Quad Cortex. Selling any hardware and refinancing what you're wanting to do is a great idea, isn't it? Because we end up with too much stuff that we don't use. All right, moving on. So what else have we got? Righty. So decisions was a good one. And obviously fear, overcoming fear. I think like with fear, the best way to do with fear is look at what you're wanting to do in life, right? And usually with me, when I feel anxious about doing something, it's usually it's an indicator that that's the thing that I'm wanting to do. So it really just comes down to a question of how I can break that thing down into manageable chunks that are less terrifying. So I always think of setting the stream up, you know, the earlier ones that I've got on there, terrible. But like, it didn't matter to me because I wasn't thinking. I didn't go, right, hey, this is my channel. It's all sorted now, and just stuck a crappy camera in front of me, which is what I did. It was just really, I had to do something to get moving. I had to experience it to work out what to do next. I couldn't plan everything in my head and make it perfect. So you can see actually through the last 2 years how the channel sort of improved. Certainly in its content and look. Really, that was just about people being able to see me make music. I wasn't saying anything much, really. It was just really a window into my world, to be fair, to get things started. Now I've got a little bit more to say about things. And obviously the look of everything's like improved massively. You know, I've got a much better camera. Things are looking more how they're meant to look, and I think I've probably made things look as good as they're gonna look, which is interesting because you can see this. Like, honestly, the camera's made such a big difference. I can have a wider shot. You know, I've got that nice sort of like background where it's a bit more blurred in the back, so I've got like depth of field. It's sharper. I'm shooting. And what you may call it anyway, but I've got a nice LUT that colours things. S-Log, isn't it? That's what I'm using S-Log, but yeah, so things look a lot better. And just really to get to that point, the only way to do it is just to do the thing and just accept that you're going to be doing it badly, but it is going to improve, because if you do something, at least you can see what it is you've done, and then you can immediately work out how to do it much better. So in my case, it was so terrible, it was obvious what I had to do. I had to get a better camera, I had to get more of a personality. I had to find a decent angle to shoot from and kind of get my head around that, because there's only so many things you can do in this room. So I think one thing is like, this is probably the best I can get it, apart from completely gutting the place and starting again. And then boredom, you know, just, you know, when you're bored, do something about it. You know, that's when we can try maybe it's different plugin, different approaches. Skills, sometimes I'm bashing skills, right? Because I think for coming in the guitar world is like very heavily skill focused, isn't it? We're just focusing on being amazing on that instrument. and being able to play all of our skills and every combination of notes as you possibly can isn't really making your connection with the world, and that's where the problem is, and that can be impacted if you're in the mindset that I was when I was younger of I'm not going to do X till I can do this thing on guitar, and that's not like, that's just stopping your voice, isn't it? And I always think about babies, right? Babies, when you're born, you just start making a noise, don't you? You're just trying to learn to speak, and you're exploring the parameters of your voice by making silly noises and all that kind of stuff that babies do. But the thing is with babies, right? Everybody around the baby doesn't go, "Oh, be quiet. You're not speaking properly. That's nonsense." No, a baby's surrounded by also language experts, right, who help the baby. That's why we can all speak, But it's different in adult life, because then we have the fear thing kicking in, whereas if you do it wrong in school, "Oh, you've done it wrong, you're not very good at that, you don't have to do it again," and that kind of impacts on us. It stops us being creative. And this also then leaks into our skill focus, doesn't it? When we're learning new skills, before we go out and do anything or experiment or use this as part of our new voice, we're slaving away trying to learn that skill because we're frightened to do it wrong in front of people. And that's just wrong, isn't it? We should all be supported like a baby is supported when it's learning to speak, That's my view on it. And I think there's a lot to learn from that, I know certainly Victor Wooten in all of his books mentions that whole thing of supporting a baby when it's speaking, and how they're just free to explore the parameters of their voices. So yeah, skills, and then community, understanding your community. I think, I can't remember if I talked about it, but one thing I learned was the thing called the magnet model and the bomb. So like the big record industry, just with the tastemakers, it'll just say there's an event about to happen and you all have to be here and you have to do this thing, and then it's a big explosion and that's it, and then it disappears. Whereas the magnet model, certainly for my coaching, this is like a magnet. It's a regular point of contact that people can come and enjoy for free and get resources and get help and all that kind of stuff, and just talk and enjoy and all that kind of good stuff. But then sort of behind that is like I have the coaching business. So if anybody wants to go any further and be in a coaching group, then they can do that, And again, I have a sort of an offer. It's basically, if you want to join a group, it's $237, and basically, if it's not for you and you do a month with me and it's like, "Tim, it's just not, like, this is just being crap and it's wasted all my time," which I hope doesn't happen, I'll just give you your money back. That's it. But at least you can try, and then there is no risk. So conditions of success massively helped. That was one of the first things I kind of did, really, Then I just did a little breakdown of the music machine. I think I called that creativity modularized. So just very quickly, as Rick Rubin would call them seeds, I call them a splurge. Making ideas. Like really, like one thing just to take away from that is just be good to yourself and don't judge what you're doing as being rubbish. Again, I hear this all the time, people doing splurges and stuff. Like, I've been splurging this week, but to be fair, none of it was good, right? And I'm like, right, okay, did you listen back to your stuff? No, it just felt like it wasn't good. I wasn't doing anything good. And again, this is another scenario of how we feel about our skills and abilities and what we're doing in the moment, okay? And then we're getting that mixed up with what we're creating. So we've got the emotions of the music, okay? Is it a happy, sad tune? And then we've got our emotions of frustration of being an artist. Two separate things. And again, I mentioned it before, we need to separate those two things. We need to put our feelings away from that. It's easier when you're in a job, when you're in work, right? Because you could get up in the morning, have like an argument with the missus, right? Really bad, and then go into work, can't you? Feeling all crap. But you definitely know that that crap feeling is separate from the work that you're doing. And you can focus on the two different things. It's just the same with music, you know? Instead of like, beating yourself up about your, like, the shortfalls you may or may not have. As an artist, getting that mixed up with what you're creating is not what I want to be doing. So we're practicing just removing that judgment out of the way. So we're free to create whatever we want to make. And I think, and honestly, splurging is definitely, that's, it's permission to make shit music, as I was saying yesterday. Everybody I come across, right? Everybody has permission to make shit music. Everybody here has permission to make shit music. Anybody else who kind of stumbles upon this video, either now or in like 1,000 years' time, you can all make shit music. It's fine. Because out of that, all I want to do is just have options of ideas. So splurging's a big thing. It's the fuel in the tank of creativity, isn't it? And when we have that, there'll be certain things, bad as they may sound, that do interest us, that do make us excited. I used to have an old crappy tape 4-track when I was a kid, and I used to just record a guitar, no bass, with some drums, with a bit of attitude, and that's all I needed to be able to get excited about an idea. Think, oh great, right, yeah, this is good, I get the idea, I can't wait to take this to the band rehearsal and kind of put it all together. So really, I think because of, modern technology, the music industry as it is making all these wonderful plugins for us, and now we can absolutely bathe and luxuriate ourselves in this like ridiculous idea of perfection because we're being given it under our fingertips apparently. That whole thing gets lost, doesn't it? Because something doesn't sound good quality, all right, equals it mustn't be a good idea, and that's just wrong, isn't it? A good idea can sound terrible. A mistake is a hidden intention. So we've got to be mindful for that, okay? Because we don't want to miss out on the good ideas, do we? And of course, if we're modularizing creativity, it's different sections, the whole quality issue is taken care of later on. We just need to focus on just making something exciting, And that's why we have discovery. We have discovery and investigation on our terrible splurge. We can do an investigation, and we can make and we can respond to that, and we can flesh out the idea even more. We can draft it, and we can build, if you live instruments, you can build a picture, you can build the roadmap of how the song is and find out what it wants to be, okay? And it can still be finding out what it wants to be right up to release, because at the end of the day, there'll be a point after drafting that you're going to think, right, you know what, I really like this idea and I can see it and I want to release it. And then in release, that's where you can start thinking about quality within reason. So re-recording guitars that are rough, fixing out-of-tune vocals, completely gutting the track and re-recording everything if you have to. That's all fair. Or sometimes, for us pure 100% electronic producers, maybe it's just that when you get to release, that it's just you're adding some more transition effects and you're just getting into the weeds of the mix, to finish it. But either way, the quality judgment's at the end of the process, and the reason for that quality judgment is because it's convergent thinking. It's concrete binary decisions, more or less. It's yes or no. Have I done this? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Okay. Rhythm guitars are out of time. Re-record. Guitar was out of tune. Re-record. Have I done this? Yes, I have. It's pretty simple. Whereas the creative process, we're more in the wilderness with our ideas and create. Like anything can happen. We don't know, right? The future's a lot more unpredictable. We can't really, and we're not being result focused. But we can be more focused on quality towards the end of it. Now, the thing here is what you don't want to do is you don't want to bring quality judgment in early on, like when you're splurging or doing a discovery session, because it gives you that feeling of like your music's finished. Like music seems to have like a time limit of how long you can work on it. And it gets to a point where just everything becomes tight and concrete and hard to deal with. And a lot of that tightness and that feeling, that anxiety that you get with trying to finish an idea, and you feel that, you've been ground down to the point where you can only do small actions that aren't really making a difference. And that's usually because what people have done is they've started bringing those concrete decisions in release into the front end. And it's described as accelerating and braking in the car at the same time. It's the best analogy I've heard for that. It doesn't work. It can't be done. So we need to separate those two things. Drafting sessions, beginning, middle, and end. I think like one thing that's, sometimes you might be doing a splurge and you might think of a story. I know sort of early on when I was running a coaching group, I was encouraging people to come up with stories, splurge stories, and then write music based upon that. And then I was teaching people how to kind of track with the emotions of a potential story in their music. And that's really cool, and it's a great way to splurge. But sometimes, because things are so open, what you don't want to do is if you start with a story and then you kind of do a splurge in a discovery session, that story, that purpose, that message may change, and that's okay to do that. So never make your music, never go into a design phase to try and refine the purpose that you originally had. Allow yourself just to follow whatever purpose the music is telling you. Music for me is becoming, it's becoming, there's something more spiritual that I'm aware of with music, and it is its own beast. And I really do feel, even more now, every day I do it, that it's its own entity, that it isn't me. Music tells me what to do. When I'm improvising on guitar, it's telling me what to do. If I start telling it what to do, things don't fit together or they go wrong. But as soon as I just submit to the music, all right, and then try and work out what the music's telling me to do, things go well. So just allow the music to be boss, basically, is what I'm saying, in as much as you can. So it's okay to change the purpose of what you're doing in a draft as the main thing, but really drafting is your arrangement. So it could be just like verse and a chorus, but you might have a story. I did talk about the done section in the machine, and just when you're doing something in done, you're not doing anything. It's just a place to leave your music for a week or 3 days or whatever, till you make the decision on whether you're going to release it or not. Now, importantly, if you're not going to release it, it's fine to then stick it in a sketchbook, because for me, everything's color-coded. So if I ever need to go back to anything, if I think like, I'm doing an album or something like that, on the Riding Out album, I was short of a song. And luckily, rather than thinking about what that song should be in conjunction with all the other songs that were there, I just went to the sketchbook and I found something and pulled it out. And it was a much better starting point than what I had in the album. And then I just reapproached that piece of music from the sketchbook like I was doing a remix. So it was like a super fun thing to do, rather than a really stressful, like, I need to write this piece of music and it has to be like this, Don't sell the fractal. Don't sell the gear because you will wish you kept it someday. Well, it's something to be thinking about. Me, I'm going to have a clear out. Yes, all right, you haven't played live for a while. I don't sell my fishing gear. Right. Yeah, the tech is becoming out of date faster. You can't keep up. The studio is fine with the fractal. Keep it. I'll probably just get the quad core test because I can share presets faster. Oh, yeah. Don't do it. Right. Well, I would check the polychrome out. Option paralysis is horrible. Is it on ISO, a pipe dream? No. Not to my knowledge. Yes, you can buy my COD Cortex. But I'd rather you just save your money and come on a coaching with me. There we go. I would enjoy seeing you combine Zen approach with comedy. I think I would struggle with the comedy bit, to be fair. I have a dry sense of humour, I must admit, but I don't think I'd be able to keep it up for long. With a bit of whimsy. It's like getting out of your own way. I made some more shit just an hour ago waiting for the stream to start. Brilliant. Because it's going to be good shit though, isn't it, Enzo? It just needs to go away, listen to it in 3 days, and then see if you get any surprises. Yeah, the 4 tracks are great, weren't they? In fact, mine was a Tascam. Was it? Yes, it was. With quality judgment, I often get hung up on transitions and modulations. So that's interesting because a transition and a modulation of something, it's only a detail, isn't it? So this, that's a great example of when we're looking at the Eisenhower matrix here, right? The American general there. That if he was making music, right, he probably wouldn't even bother with the transitions and modulations if it's going to be, right, low impact for the listener and high effort for you. So is there other way around those transitions and modulations? Because you don't want to get into kind of trying to make something work if it doesn't. A nice simple drum fill might work, or something else. And the other thing you can do, Enzo, is what I was talking about yesterday. We can talk about okay, so the modulations and transitions aren't working. Is there a problem? Describe the problem. And then explain. We get in tune with the source and tune into those specific vibrations of frequencies. That the spiritual part, I think. Well, something like that, isn't it? I can help with the comedy. Yeah. I'm going to keep things a little bit serious, I think. Blue Tascam. Actually, I had a digital blue Tascam. But then I had a tape one, which I loved. Was it a Fostech? No, it was a Tascam. You can change key as many times as you want and be fancy. Having too many ideas is great. So just splurge. Just splurge them all out. Bang, 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 bang. And then pick the best one. You don't have to finish every idea. This is the wonderful thing about splurging. So you can't have too many ideas. And so, if you've got too many ideas, right? There's the 100 splurge challenge, right? If I challenge you over the next fortnight to do 100 tracks, could you do it? You'd have to do 7 splurges a day. Could you do that? So I think like sometimes you just got to test your limitations out, haven't you? Because if you set that challenge, it's a great the 100 splurge challenge is brilliant. Because you just start doing crazy stuff that you just wouldn't normally do. And usually that stuff's like where the good things happen, you know. So if you've got too many ideas, it just means you've got to set the bar higher and get all of those ideas out and recorded in a splurge format. If you have 100 ideas and you go back over those 100 ideas and get an album out of it, 10 ideas, that would be brilliant, wouldn't it? And then you work on those ideas. There's also, I think there's that thing where I have too many ideas. When I've said I've had too many ideas, in the past it might have only been 5 ideas, but it became very difficult because I thought that I'd have to finish every idea and I would start forgetting ideas. So that became a problem if it's like that. If not, I suggest doing something like 100 splurge challenges, something like that. Yeah, I mean, what I like to think is that, you know, we make life happen within our life. We make our music happen within our life. So I like to think whatever is kind of going on in my world, like everybody else, you know, life has funny twists and turns and we can't predict the future and all kinds of stuff happens, right? Bar being like, you know, really ill where you're incapacitated, you can always be creative, you know. And as you know, I work as a therapeutic musician, and so I'm working with people who are really ill, you know, and they're super creative. And when you see that, it's inspiring. So you just think, you know, I could try harder when we're down, but life does can get in the way. But I think we can always do 5 minutes of creativity a day, or 15 minutes. And I think we've got to be good to ourselves and be kind. If it's something we want to do, then we should be able to do that. And that should be fair enough. And people should support us doing it because it's what we want to do. It's a positive thing. We're just making something beautiful to give back into the world. Sterling had 2 turntables and mixer made by my father. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, Enzo, at the end of the day, you know, you just got to start small and build up, you know. It's just like practicing, isn't it? It's like weightlifting. Start with something small, not that I would know, and then increase the weights. That's what you do, isn't it? It's the basic principle. All right, so we did conditions of success. I went through the machine. I did say just with the machine releases where all your quality shit can happen, basically, at the end when you know it's a good idea. But anyway, then we did a free write, which I thought was a great session. For me, I was practicing just sitting there feeling comfortable about myself in silence whilst you lot were on there, you know. What's that? That's my lead. So that was my kind of win, but actually, no, my seriously, the big win I had is that I thought, right, that it went really, really well, that most people were doing the free write and actually getting something from that. So that's something I'm really interested in, you know, moving forward, doing more of those free writes because it's a great way. It was a real interactive thing. And that free write was just based on music, money, and mindset. Because, you know, what else is there? There's your music, you know. So, and it's all about visualizing yourself in the future because we have that as a special ability. It's a special power to be able to look into the future and search possible futures. Now, I know when it comes to music making, I do say don't do that because it's result focused, right? Okay, but when we're doing free writing exercise and getting ourselves, you know, pumped up and trying to find out what we want to focus on, then it's an important thing to do. So that free write was just, we wrote about basically this oral fantasy of what your music, what would the music sound like if you were unlimited and could do anything, what would it sound like? And then we talked about the money side of things, or the business, and visualizing what you would be doing, as a successful musician. I mean, we're musicians anyway. We're all winning anyway, even if we don't do anything, because we've found music. We've got something. It's like a superpower, to me. And then the twist of that free write was, right, okay, you visualized your music, you can see a career, but actually it's usually ourselves that hold ourselves back. So what would you have to change about yourself, or what skills would you have to add to achieve those things? No, if you did 100, I think it would be 7 a day, 7 to 10 a day for like a fortnight. Or if you just do 10 days, then it's easy to work out. It's just 10 splurges. So you could do that, and so you could see if you could do 100. And then we had, what else did we have? Then we talked about conditions of flow. So there was the 17 conditions, which I went through, and in particular focusing on the ones that I use to basically get me in the moment. And I think the main one is time. So because we experience time dilation and flow, I'll set a timer to do certain things, and I'll try and beat the clock. And it works every time. Other things about flow is that we can chain flow events together, so we can be in and out of flow multiple times in a session. It doesn't exhaust. Flow doesn't have to be this magical, hey man, I'm in the zone, and it's not something that you have to feel before your session and then go, I'm not feeling it, so I'm not doing music today. If we took that attitude, then we're not going to do very much music, are we? But we do have to sit in front of our, whatever it is. We do have to sit in our studios, and we do have to make ourselves to a point, do something. We can build habits. We can do certain things to make that easier. But at a point, there's always going to be resistance, and it's just getting through that. But once we sit down, we will get into flow. We will be able to get into flow as many times as we want. Flow is a beautiful spiritual place to be. It is the place where finally I get a break from the editor. When I'm in flow, that voice isn't there, and I'm making decisions effortlessly, and it's just brilliant. And like what I was saying is, when I separated the self 1 and self 2, so the editor away from 2, I was reading about it again the other day, being the subconscious. It's the subconscious who's me. That's me, isn't it? That's when I experience who I am without thinking the editor's me. So it's just it's a wonderful place to be, flow. And the way I access flow is every day in the studio, doing a studio session. Especially doing splurges and discovery sessions, I'm in flow. In fact, drafting as well. I'll experience flow in all areas of the creative process, probably more so in release, because one of the conditions of flow is having the skill to challenge ratio dialed in. Remember that, between 4 and 7%, chicks and meow. That we need to get that skill to challenge ratio correct. So we don't want things to be too challenging, we'll give up. Not challenging enough, we'll get bored. So we need to find where the balance is, which is also really important. And that way it keeps us engaged. And that's easier to do, actually, when the tasks are more quantifiable. So in the convergent phase of the creative process, in the release phase, it's easier to do that. So it's easier to get into flow than it is, I think, earlier on. But either way, we can get into flow. Just got to sit in there and do our thing, and it'll all be good. So I remember going through that, and part of that was the Inner and Outer Game, wasn't it? Which is a wonderful book, the In a Game of Music So it's a recommended read from me. Everybody should read The Inner Game of Music, because it was absolutely like it changed my life playing guitar, that book. We talked about conscious, subconscious, and what exists. So that process of, when we're making music, sometimes, if we're going through the motions, like when I used to do my first sort of lives, I would do all my special moves first, like stuff that I was sure that would work, would come out, and I wouldn't take risks. Really, that's conscious thinking, because I had data on this will probably work if I do this, and it's the first thing I'm thinking of. So I was conscious of that. I'm more reluctant to try subconscious ideas, but the subconscious is where all the good stuff is, and that's where we need to be, because that's where all the surprises and stuff happens. So by doing a lot of the time, like the free writing, you'll experience when you're free writing, getting out all the conscious ideas first, and then there's the impasse, you get stuck. And then after the impasse, that's where the good stuff happens. After that, you'll start writing again. And that's the subconscious usually. And that's the subconscious thinking, where all the surprises I find are. So it's just moving the subconscious to the conscious, doing those things, trying to make them exist in the real world. And as you know, when we make a piece of music, it's now out of our mind, and it's now into our computers and coming out of speakers, and that's now real live data that we can work with. So thinking scientifically about it, that's how we can analyze that. We can look at the problems with the music, we can look at the problems with our own practice, and that way, if you do wins, problems, opportunities, we can create new knowledge for ourselves that's relevant to our own practice, that will move us forward and hopefully make us different to everybody else. I did talk about zones of experience as well, so making your connection to the world, and I mean all that is about. It's just a way of thinking in coaching as well, that people get. I mean, like the main one is getting stuck on the skill focus, isn't it? And the problem with that is what I was saying before: not wanting to come out of your room till you perfect something, rather than actually just do something and create something. There's been plenty of people who have very limited skill sets who are extremely successful, and that's because they have conditions of success dialed in better. They're much more aware of their environment, how they focus, what they're focusing on. They know what their purpose is. They build positive habits around it. They can make decisions easily. All of that kind of stuff, So there's also making that connection with the outside world. That's the thing at the top, all right, is making your music and then connecting with the rest of the world. And then everything below that is sort of areas which we need to develop, which we can potentially get stuck on. So just a bit of awareness about that, really. And then I think we did the crafts versus art. So design, discovery game. That was a good one. For me, design and sort of craft and art was like mixed up in not a very good way. And I think the big takeaway with craft versus art, that you want to be seeing your craft through your art, or in other words, you want to see your design through the lens of discovery. What we don't want to be doing is thinking, I'm going to make this idea in my head and negate all the good ideas that also subconsciously come in, because you have to make this thing and you're only concerned with making this thing that you've imagined in your head, and you want basically what you're thinking to be the outcome. That's not what we want to be doing with our art. We want to be flexible. So we start doing one thing with the aim to do this thing in the future, and we just allow other ideas to move us in different directions. And then, yesterday's talk was wins, problems, opportunities, and then we're just talking about describing and explaining ideas, and I think that's just a question of kind of going back and getting your head around that one. But fundamentally, the things that that have inspired me from, the why is a flower beautiful is the ability to create new knowledge for ourselves, and that's how we get better, by solving problems. So making problems your friend is like an absolute must. I mean, that's probably one out of everything that I've talked about. That's probably one of the bigger things to bear in mind. So problems are great, mistakes are great, hidden intentions. But my process is to always write about wins first when I do a session, then write about the problems, and then for every problem come up with like at least 3 options of how you're going to solve it, and then just run with that and see what improves or doesn't, and then do some more wins, problems and opportunities. And if you do that, you will always move forward, you will always improve, and you look back and you think, wow, I've come a long distance here. And I think that is about it. That was everything that I talked about. All done. And I know, Enzo, I said I would talk about AI today, but I realised it was the last one. And I thought it would be better if I just like summarised everything really at the end. However, we can still talk about AI if you want to ask me a question about it. I've got a little bit of time. But I mean, the 2 things for me with AI is well, where do I start with this really? I mean, I think the first thing is, like, I do think AI is a brilliant thing, and there are certain tools, well, just really one tool that I use that is definitely, that's AI, and that's the Sonable EQ, because I love that, it's a spectral EQ, and it usually does a great job of what you set it to do. However, it does give you a great option to control it. So if you don't agree with it, it's easier to kind of like change things. And I think that was one of my problems with a lot of AI, is that making these big decisions for you that then I would spend more time undoing and redoing myself. So I might as well not have bothered in the first place. But other than that, is the main thing with AI is just focus on, as AI is growing, what's going to be, as creatives, what's going to be left. And I think at the end of the day, people are always going to want to see another human being doing something cool that's dynamic, that they can talk to, that they can respond to. And I think AI, we're safe on that point of view. So think about what skills are going to get replaced, but more so think about what skills are going to be left. There's always going to be guitars, and there's always going to be people playing those guitars, isn't there? There's always going to be guitar manufacturers. People are always going to want to pick a guitar up and play it, likewise, like all the other instruments. So there's always still going to be an industry there for us, so we needn't worry too much about it. If anything, the value of what we do will go up because it'll become more rare on the positive side. So just think about what's going to be left. Okay. And that's me about done with my talking. I can now chill out and drink my coffee. And then imagine, so it's going to be interesting Thursday, isn't it? Because I'm like, oh dear, I'm going to have to go back to making music in front of everybody. However, it can be a distraction. And that being said, where to see it going and what effect will possibly have on the industry. Well, some industries will definitely be like affected in it, without a doubt. I think if you're doing like electronic music and you're doing it as a craft, then it's going to be a little bit troublesome. I think if you're a mixing engineer, mastering engineer, that's probably going to be quite worrying. I mean, essentially anything that can be recorded on your computer can be redone by AI, can't it? So we're definitely looking at the human interaction as where what's going to be left, so what can we provide to each other that the AI can't? Oh, there's Sean. Sean, this really was a lovely bunch of talks, Tim. I highly enjoyed all of these and of this, and thank you for it. Thank you, Sean. It's been great just having everybody on here listening to me rant. And it's certainly got my head a lot clearer on sort of what I'm doing. And it's also been a great January challenge as well. I think in terms of just like sitting here, being comfortable in my own skin, being able to talk about stuff to a load of people has massively helped me. Incredibly. It's been great, And, being a musician isn't just about playing an instrument and growing in that way. It's growing in all ways, isn't it? It's growing as a human being and how we communicate and talking and presenting and playing guitar and producing and being a mixing engineer and doing mastering. It's all these areas that we need to improve. And I've just, this month I've decided to improve in my presentation. I think it has improved. I mean, I feel a lot better about myself doing that. And the way I've done it is to just set a ridiculous challenge and hope that I can do it, I remember saying I'm going to do a load of talks and writing them down and then thinking, oh my God, what have I put myself up to? The first one, dragging myself out of bed. Luckily, I've got my habits, routine, so I can do a lot of it unconsciously. And then I'm sat here going, oh no, what am I going to say? But sure enough, flow kicks in and you're off. You just got to sit and do the work. And I think if there's anything in life that you really, really want to do, just do it. Don't put it off, Most of the time as human beings, we're always, thinking things will, projecting into the future, the editor saying, oh, all these bad things will happen. You don't want to be doing that because it wants to keep us safe. But with music, nothing bad happens, Being sitting on a stream here, I could do a terrible stream. At the end of the day, I could just delete it. Very unlikely though, because if it's really, really terrible, I'll probably want to keep it up there just to show everybody like how bad it can be. So everything has a purpose, doesn't it? So before I go, any questions? Any final questions or anything like that? So Wednesday, I'm with my coaching group. Thursday, I'm back here doing something musical. I'm going to make a noise that isn't my own voice. Nope, there was a thumbs up. Thank you, whoever that was. No, it's on its way though, and so you must have been reading my mind. I'm getting all of that set up. I'm actually I'm doing things properly. In terms of my coaching anyway, so there's going to be a landing page. That's the first thing. There's going to be a landing page where I can email everybody. And when I do that, because I'm a bit random, when I email people, I'll be giving them random stuff. That's what I'll do. I'll just give them things. I'll make stuff and I'll just say, if you sign here or here's a link, I've given you something. It might be a snare drum. It might be me playing a 2-note riff. Who knows what could be in there? But I will be doing there'll be some sort of random giveaway. Nope, the camera's blurring. Give us your stems. Well, you could have those stems, but I would rather just give you the tools in which you can just make your own stems with more ease than it would take to actually download my stems, load them up into your computer, and start trimming somebody else's idea. How about I'll create my own stems in that length of time. So if we think about the time it would take to get the email, get the stems, download the stems, upload the stems to your computer, put them all neatly in line so you know what everything is, name all the tracks. You might as well just knock another tune up. I know you're kidding, Enzo, but I have to. I had to say, I just, I don't want to miss a trick. I've got to make sure I'm on the case. But just think of that time. There's a time, right? How long? That could take 15 minutes. 15 minutes will make a track in 15 minutes. That'll be my first challenge on Thursday. I'm going to make a track in the time it would take to download some stems. Tim's stem cells. Very good. Oh, there's Paul. Hi, Paul. How are you doing? You just caught the last bit of the, unless you were on before, the last bit of the final talk, which was just recapping over everything in a haphazard fashion. But I'm nearly done for this morning. It's been another blast. Honestly, I've enjoyed these talks. Now, we'll be doing more in the future-ish at some point. But yeah, we're gonna do something a bit more practical. Put it that way. I mean, it might be once I just get a few sessions making a bit of music, I'm gonna think of a way I can make the music making more interactive, so you can ask more questions, and then I can do more stuff on what I'm doing. Might be good. Make your own stems instead of wasting time on a stem you copy. It doesn't fit your idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, the stem things like Beatport, I don't know if you can still do that, but you could get like another producer's stems on a release. That was quite interesting. Because I thought, right, I'll get in there and just take the kick drums. But actually, when they did the stem releases, all the drums were together and you wouldn't be able to get a clear shot of the kick drum, which was a bit disappointing. Interestingly enough, that'll be one of my giveaways. My old electronic kick drum folder, which I'm very proud of. Because I spent all of my kind of career as a house producer of stealing other people's kick drums and reusing them. So I have that folder of like other kick drums. It's not that many, there's about 30 that I have. And there'll probably only be about 4 or 5 of them that I ever used. On actual releases. But anyway, I'm pretty much getting there. I think I'm coming to an end of the session and need to do my housely chores. Oh, that's just the missus looking for something. Ever tempted to do a Megadeth style album? I think, God, I'm tempted to play heavy guitar because I've designed a 7-string and I'm not going to be playing funk on it, that's for sure, and it certainly won't be doing jazz. So there's going to be something heavy comes out of it. I'm imagining distortion, low riffing. And so I absolutely love your work on McRocklin and Hutch. Thank you. So I think the other thing, I'm toying with live drums, all right? So live drum samplers. So I've got like addictive drums, which is great. And then I've got like get good drums. But I'm toying with the idea which one to use, which one's going to be easier. So that's something we'll be looking into over the coming days and weeks. Yeah. It's got an atmosphere, that's for sure. Yeah, it's hard to mix. That's the thing with guitars, it's a wall of noise, isn't it? But there are ways around it. Anyway, I've got to go, everybody, because it's time for me to get on with my duties. But it's been a blast. I'll see everybody on Thursday and we'll talk drums. All right. Any drum suggestions on drum sampler type things like addictive drums, that sort of thing, just send me an email and make a few suggestions because I'll have a look into them. So what are you guys using? That's good. I'll be interested to know. All right. I'll see you. Bye.